So I've started to draw out my template shapes. I'm just going to start from the beginning for you so you get an idea. So when I first started drawing out, I did the base for the first shape to draw in, okay? So here I've drawn the base about the full length of this A4 paper right to the end. There's one bit, I go up to 21 centimeter or 20 centimeters if you like, and I have that extra 5 centimeter gap, which is going to be the footpath at the front of the building, just to give you an idea around here, okay? So that way I know where the main house is going to be shaped in. Essentially, your tiny house shape needs to be about 15 by 20 centimeters as an overall model size. Okay, so on this part, this will be the large wall. And as you can see, I've drawn out the shapes of the windows and I scribbled out those windows, meaning that I need to cut a hole for those windows. And then I've drawn out a door and you can see these dashed line marks on the side of the door, meaning that you need to fold rather than cut it out. So that way your door can open and close, okay? Okay, so the other thing to consider when you're drawing out your template shapes, it needs to fit the base of your shape. So as you can see, I've drawn each wall where it will fit to the tiny house base side, and you can see I've left out a footpath for it. Right, so once you're all done, the next thing you need to make sure you add all the measurements to your plan sheet. So look at the base shape first, and the base is about 21 centimeters in terms of the tiny house shape. But don't forget to add the extension part of the footpath, and that's extra 5 centimeters. So do make sure you add every single detail of measurements in there so that when you start making your actual model, you will need to be referring back to this sheet. Just to give you an idea how I drew my template shapes. So the first thing I'm going to start doing is the side walls because I haven't finished drawing it out. Dot to dot, it measures about 1 centimeter. And how I'm measuring that is that I'm looking at the back wall, looking at the height, and that's about 9 centimeter. Then I'm looking at the base, and the width for that was 14 centimeter. So I'm always looking at each side where it's going to connect to, and then look at the measurement on my plan sheet to help me decide what size it needs to be. So on the other side, that's obviously going to be connected to the larger wall, and the height is also 14 centimeters, and then I just connect the dots from there. So once you start to have all the measurements in, it becomes easy to decide what size it needs to be for the rest of the house. Right, the next part is all about looking at the joiners. So when you're thinking about the joiners, you want them to have 1 centimeter on one side, and then you fold, and then the other side would be 1 centimeter. So essentially it's going to be a 2 centimeter width, and the length will depend on the side of the walls that's going to be connected as shown here. Here you can see I've tessellated all my shapes so that I have room to draw the joiners in, and I don't waste paper as well. When I'm drawing a joiner, I'm at the moment drawing the base of the joiner, so I'm doing it to the size of the actual width of the wall. And then I'm going to add the dashed marks so that we know where the folded line is going to be. So joiners are essentially like tabs. This is where you're going to use it to connect the parts of the house together. So when you're drawing out the joiners, make sure you check that you have every joiners counted in. So have you got one that connects to the roof, connects to the base, and connects to the side of the walls. So once you're done adding all the joiners in, you need to start adding the rest of the measurements that you haven't finished doing on your plan sheet. Once you've done that, the next part really, you need to start cutting out your shapes and cut it out very, very neatly because it needs to be straight. When you're cutting the window, like before, just cut across in the middle and then cut your way around it from the inside. For the doors, you just cut around the 2 lines on the side and then create a fold. So in this lesson, what I want you to do is start drawing out your template shapes, add all the measurements onto your plan sheet, because that plan sheet is going to help you with your cardboard model and your foam board model later on. So make sure your measurements are accurate. Make sure your drawings are neat and accurate so that your house that you're going to make looks neat, and it will be strong when it stands up as a structure as well, and it should look like your final design drawing that you have done a couple of lessons ago. Okay? For joiners, at this point you just need to create all the folds. You should have cut out all the template shapes. And for the joiners, you only need to stick it in from the inside of the house, and make sure you align it to the shapes, the template shapes. Make sure you try to avoid putting loads of glue smudges all over your model. So as you can see, I am sticking the tab down from the inside rather than on the outside of the house. So that way it keeps the model really nice and neat. And here's an example of how I've done that. So now I'm going to stick the last part of the wall and gluing down the side of the tabs and connecting the sides together like so. And now I'm going to start doing the base, and so the base only need 2 joiners on each side to keep the house together and hold. And then I do the same for the roof, where I only need 2 sides of it glued down like so. And then once you're done, you can cut off any excess paper that might be sticking out and neaten up the edges. Right guys, so you've got this whole lesson to join all your pieces together to make your paper tiny house model. It should look like your final design drawing that you have done in your sketchbook a couple of lessons ago. Make sure you stick neatly so there's no glue smudges everywhere, and make sure when you're pressing it down, you're pressing it gently so that you don't create more creases on your work. Okay?